Welcome to another episode of the Tough Stuff Podcast.
Be sure to like, love, share, or subscribe wherever you may be watching or listening, because we believe God wants to bring encouragement and hope through these stories.
What's going on, Tough Stuff Podcast? Hey. How are you doing today?
It's been a while.
It has. It's been has it been 2 weeks?
Yes.
2 weeks. I feel like, I was just thinking about it. It's like Usher. You got it bad. I feel like, we missed a couple episodes. My whole life's off track.
Well, speaking of tough stuff, the thought of being on a break for 2 weeks was quite a tough thing for me. I was like, oh no. Are we going to say, people going to be waiting for us to come back, or are we going to just die out? Or
honestly, when you said, hey, we need to go ahead and get rolling, I kind of was like, for what? Oh yeah, that podcast thing we've been doing. But man, it was a great trip. We got to go out to spend some time in beautiful Florida off of 30A right past Destin. With
my family and all of our kids, cousins, and uncles and aunts. And
yeah, you can't call it vacation though. It is a trip.
I mean, our kids are old enough now where, we still have to take care of them, but they're a little bit more self-sufficient, on the beach. We became book readers.
It's better than hell, but it's not like a vacation. You're not constantly having to. And Sayla, I don't know she was a magnetism for the sand in her face.
Sayla,
as soon as she would get down, she would just drop face in the sand.
But it's because she loved it.
She doesn't mind the sand.
She thinks it tastes good.
It's odd.
It's very odd. But it was a great trip. Thankful.
What was your favorite part of the trip?
My favorite part of the trip?
You can't take mine.
My favorite part of the trip was...
Hope y'all like my new espresso cups.
Your pinky. That was extra bougie.
Well, you have to,
My favorite part of the trip... Well, first of all, the water was closed most of the week, so we couldn't really get in it. Well, towards the end of our stay, it opened back up. And my sister looked at me and said, we should boogie board together. And there's nothing more exciting in the world than to ride a wave on a boogie board as a 34-year-old woman and look over, and you're also in her 30s-year-old sister is right there next to you, and we're just falling apart in the water. That was, I think that was my favorite part. Plus,
it didn't even include me.
Oh, well, does it have to?
No, it doesn't.
The other thing was I loved watching our kids. I feel like this was the first time we've been to the beach where our kids were old enough to really enjoy it. Yeah. And that was really fun to watch.
They cried when we were leaving.
Yeah, but it was fun to watch them play in the sand and in the water and all that. So,
I learned a lot about myself this trip.
Did you?
I did.
You're
going to ask me what my favorite part is now?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you have told me what you learned about yourself this trip.
That we're getting older. First off,
this is new to me, so whatever he's about to say.
Well, we went to exactly where they just had all these shark attacks. And usually, man, I got my paddle board. I want to go out and I want to, paddle board. And it really put a little bit of fear in me. I don't know if it's that I'm maturing and getting smarter, but usually that's not something that would have fazed me.
You were scared?
Not scared. I was cautious.
I
didn't put myself into a place to need to be scared.
Wow.
I stayed pretty shallow, but it was fun. And then I tried to run the half marathon with no training, and that also did not go how it has gone the past 5 years.
You do that every year, and I feel like every year you have the same reaction to your
No, this was a different level. I'm actually I've been pondering almost this message about it. The only reason that I made it was because it was out and back, and I literally had to make it. And I was too proud to call somebody to come get me. I was hurting so bad.
You and I just have a different mindset when it comes to a vacation. The last thing that I'm trying to do is like run a half marathon. Now, I like to run at the beach. So like I'll go run a couple miles every few days. But to say every time I go to the beach I'm going to run a half marathon.
It's a pride thing. Pride comes before the fall.
And you fell.
I felt the fall this year.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it just really is this age thing.
You're getting old.
We picked up a new hobby of
reading. Are you about to be 36?
Of reading fiction books.
We read a fiction book. Fantasy fiction.
I wasn't going to say that part for my own reputation, you know?
Yeah.
But we started reading these books. And honestly, this is the first fiction book I've read.
I've never done it either.
Jail.
Outside of jail.
Like where it wasn't a captive audience. And I'm really proud of myself. I didn't know if I would continue this book that you've got me reading, 650 something pages long, but I've been reading it at home.
And you're constantly beating me, like you're ahead of me.
I'm enjoying it.
I know, like
am I turning into a nerd?
I don't know, because I'm not a reader either. In fact, when I was in school, this is so sad, I had poor reading comprehension.
Did you really?
Yes. So whenever I read, I have to like really focus or read it twice. Because
you're a huge auditory learner. Like, you've memorized every song. Like, we'll be in Macy's and they'll be playing a song on the...
Do we go to Macy's?
I was trying to think of the most like ambiguous place, and you'll know the word of every song that I've never even heard in my life.
I do.
You learn auditorily.
Yeah. But when it comes to reading, I have to like... I don't know if I'm maybe ADD or what, but I have to like really zone in and... a lot of times read the page twice.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I've never really been interested in reading, but we found this series that was recommended to us, and it's been so exciting.
It is fun. It is like movies have gone, like movies, I'm a movie guy, and movies have kind of let me down. I don't know if it's just because of mass consumption and Netflix and how much they're putting out there, but movies just haven't been what they used to be, where you can really get lost
in
emotionally in characters, and I think books have done that.
Are you saying that now you're a reader? Like, are we the kind of people that when we wake up in the morning, we're gonna go sit on the patio, drink a cup of coffee, and read our books?
When our kids are like out of the house?
Yeah. But like we're starting that life now. That. Or like
I've always kind of like admired people that are like, I don't have a TV in my room.
I know. I always wonder how they do that.
I think they do that mostly so they have more sex, though.
Oh, well.
But to just read in the afternoons, like last night, and I don't last 5 minutes trying to read before I go to bed. It puts you to sleep quick, which is great, you know. You may have a full-on new hobby.
At this point, we're rambling, but it's important.
It is. It is. What else happened? Sayla almost drowned.
Yeah,
that was eventful.
It was scary.
Sayla just gently stepped right off of the steps, and it wasn't like she like stepped into the deep end. It was like she stepped into 3-foot water, and she's like 35 inches, so she was only like an inch underneath the water with her eyes wide open. And it was like at the same exact time that you walked out of the door. It was like the worst possible timing ever to make me.
Chris
like
was in charge.
Father.
Oh my God! I walk out the door.
I was probably reading my book.
Oh my gosh. But that ended up being okay. That was scary.
But honestly, I'm happy to be home.
I know. There's something about routine. Like there's something about the rest of unplugging and just like refocusing your daily day-to-day activities. But then there's also something else about routine and getting back into the swing of things, getting back into your space. You know, I've enjoyed being home too.
I've struggled to get in the ice bath, but I've missed it so much.
Oh.
I've missed, like I do. I'm getting old. Routine person. I need to get up. I've got such a routine now. Like I can't even sit in a different chair in the morning. I need a certain blanket. The other morning, Elijah slept with that blanket in his room, and I was so upset. I need to get up, drink my cup of coffee, read my Bible in that chair with my blanket.
But that's so interesting that you are that way about routine, because you're the exact opposite about change.
Yeah, because
like I'm looking at you.
I have my routine down. I'm like an amphibian. I can do anything.
What?
As long as I'm like in my own mental space, healthy because of my routine, I'm ready to flow, you know?
But like I'm looking at your beard and I'm like, last episode you probably didn't have a beard. And you probably, you know what I'm saying? Like you're, as much as you love routine, you also love change.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I need the routine to go with the change.
Gotcha.
You know?
Very complicated.
I am high maintenance.
If you needed to know who the high maintenance person in our marriage is.
Oh, 100%.
It is not me.
100%.
You are very high maintenance. You take longer to get ready than me.
No, I wouldn't say that.
You don't think? How about yesterday when you were
Usually
getting ready for church?
Because I visualized my outfit the night before.
No, what you came out.
Yesterday, I'm struggling with church clothes. I haven't bought new clothes in a little while, probably the longest ever. And I just don't know what to wear to church anymore.
The way
these
you
days.
came out of the room yesterday, and I was like,
fashion has changed so much. And fashion is now like, it's built for the person that's 6'2" and looks like they have a bad drug habit because they have no like weight on. They're just skinny. Like they're trying to keep it politically correct, but they were like rails. And you know, they wear the baggy pants and the big shirts.
You're like short and stubby.
That is like the most least flattering thing you've ever said to me in our whole marriage.
I'm so sorry.
It's like my worst nightmare. Just spoke it into existence. Let me tell you what you are. No, I'm joking. That would be awesome.
This episode is getting crazy.
But I don't take longer to get ready. I probably put way more thought into it.
You're the guy that we're like, we have to leave in 10 minutes, and you're like, let me cut my hair.
Well, that's because there's a routine. There's things that need to be done, and I obsess over them. You know, if they're not done, it's like not Q-tip in your ears at night. Like, I will just think about it all night long until I finally get up and go put a Q-tip in my ears and get the water out. There's just things that, like, once I'm fixated on it, I'm fixated on it.
Yeah.
That's how I was with you.
Oh, wow. Nice turn.
Turn that curve. Girl.
Yeah, see ya. Well, it's been an interesting year of our life, I guess, is a good way to say it. You know, we've had a lot of transition happen, especially in my day-to-day life where, you know, we've mentioned before, God, you know, asked me to make room, and I didn't know quite what that meant. So I started trying to make room, and I feel like every week almost I learn of something else that God is fitting into the new room. Like he's like, this is what you're made room for. This is what you made room for. And I'm like, my gosh, I just didn't know how much room I needed to make. Yeah. And so it's been really cool to maybe, I guess you could say, exercise gifts that I have in new ways that maybe I haven't always been able to do on a regular basis, like helping people and serving people, and this whole idea of the Sparrow Foundation and victims of human trafficking. And, you know, I took a step of faith to say, I want to help this organization start. And it's been quite a journey just getting to be on the front lines of the fight against human trafficking in our state. Yeah. And
I was about to say, this it wasn't a good time to cut you off. But I was about to say, like, you were making room has made me make room for more faith.
Oh.
Because this has been such a faith journey.
Well, it's like, when you feel like God speaks to you so strongly to like shift things and make room, it's like it got so loud to me that I was like, I cannot disappoint God. Like I can't stay in my comfort zone here. Like this is like God asking me to step out, and I have to do it. And what's interesting is, you know,
it was such like a me move. Like, you're not usually the one to, like, just change things
I know.
up. New job.
I know.
Quit my job and go do this, you know? I never thought that would ever happen. It was
Well, that's how you know
thing.
it's God, because that wouldn't have been me. But, you know, I think about years ago, I completed my degree in graphic design. Mm-hmm. And so I've done graphics here and there in different ways. You know, I still do some work for the church and social media in that world. And so I used that skill set there, but then felt like God was going to bring me opportunities to use it, like in my own business type way. Yeah. And so God has given me random opportunities to partner with different businesses. Or
you randomly were like, you came home one day and were like, I think I need to start my LLC.
Yeah, that was weird. The thing about God with me, and I don't know, it's really me and you, is God doesn't like burn the bush in front of us and say, go open up an LLC. I was like, it was like a random Tuesday, and I was like, hey babe, I think I want to start an LLC. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But turns out
Which is also not a you move. Typically be like, hey babe, can you go figure out how to start me an LLC? I don't want to have to call and talk to somebody.
But like, that's how God moves in our life a lot, is like that nudge of like, it's on your heart and it's like, I have to go do this. And I don't even know why.
Yeah.
But now having an LLC that I can do graphic work under, where I've helped different businesses and organizations and, you know, different people with their branding or their marketing or that kind of thing. And so even though I took a pay cut to do what I did, it's been cool to see God give me work to supplement that income. But also, like, I have not advertised this to anybody. Mm-hmm. So like, it's literally like God said to do this, and he has brought
the provision that we've needed in this season. Yeah.
Even though it's been sketchy at times, but we've been very I know God told me to do it. And so when finances feel,
and you've had some of the most random gigs come out of the blue, like but you're doing graphics for electrical companies all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just random.
Pastors with World Ministries all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just out of nowhere. And it's interesting because I've been able to see God move in a different way that way. But I'm thrilled that he's putting the pieces together, because my ultimate dream would be to have enough financial stability to where I could really go serve with Sparrow and like serve these girls and in this way and just be free to do it. And so that's where I feel like God's moving me. And so it's been such an interesting dynamic, this role, because we've said before, but the head honcho of Sparrow, Allie's Cole, is really an expert in human trafficking, recognized in Louisiana. And so we started this organization, and she's been doing it for 50 years. So it's not like the work is starting. Yes, the work is not starting. Just the name Sparrow Foundation is starting. And so I felt like God said, make room for this. And so, I've been able to come in and use my graphic design skill set to help with things like the website and social media. And I've done different marketing things and signage, and, I've been able to
even create a presence.
To create
before there's any funding, before there's any pay, anything like that.
And so, because of that, because of that, I've been able to be in the most bizarre rooms, and so that's been cool, because I come in as a tech nerd, and then I get to go read sci-fi novels now, then go sit in the state capitol and listen to people discuss this topic, or go to a prison and help release a girl.
Yeah, such an awesome thing.
Every day is different. And what's been really cool is, and kind of the heart behind this podcast, is storytelling. And so with Sparrow, I get the honor of going into all of these moments with these victims and survivors and tell the story.
Yeah.
And so that is like, I could do that for the rest of my life, you know,
awesome.
to really get into somebody's story, to know why they ended up where they were and what happened to them, and be able to listen and then tell the story, and then have other people celebrate their, you know, release and recovery and all this.
Yeah.
And so it's just been a new season. I think about the last, you know, few weeks and where I've been. Like I've been in a room full of law enforcement, where we train our team, not we, because I don't do it, but Miss Alice and Michelle, our 2 team members, train, you know, all over the state. We've trained law enforcement, we've trained healthcare, because you think about it, survivors of trafficking or victims, they're going to be seen in everyday life. They're going to come into contact with police officers and hospital staff, and so we get the opportunity to go train these people on what to look for and how. And so, which
is really cool. What did that officer tell you the other day?
The other day we were at a training with full of law enforcement, and you know, it's just such a unique angle that we get to have, because Sparrow is on the front lines. And so because Miss Alice is ultimately the best storyteller on planet Earth, and she can remember stories from like 30 years ago, like she can remember what people wore in different moments with different people. So when we train all of these entities, we come with stories. And so, you know, obviously statistics are necessary and we use them, but there's nothing that speaks more accurately to somebody like that than an actual story of somebody in that position. And so we get to come and say, you know, how did you miss me at a traffic light? You know, how did you, or a stoplight or a traffic stop, or how did you miss me in the ER? You know, we get to come and help people see with, because the thing about trafficking is it's so complex, and the people that are doing this horrible thing are smart, and so they know what they're doing, and so it's not easy to always find it. So we get to go and help people know the cues and all the things.
You guys, honestly, y'all get to be a voice for those whose voice has been taken.
Yes.
You know? And
it's really cool. Well, because you think about it, like, and this is kind of I've learned a more controversial thing with human trafficking. A lot of people think that these women are all voluntarily like prostitutes. And the thing is in the life of trafficking, you're taught to like identify as a prostitute. So when you are asked, like, you're a prostitute, but people don't realize is a great percentage of these women are actually being forced to do this. And so there's, you know, a lot behind the scenes that is happening, and and they've just been brainwashed so much to where, you know, they're doing what they're doing. And so anyway, I've gotten to see a lot, but we were in a room full of law enforcement officers, and you know, our team trained, and this officer, he came up to us, not us, because I was not the one that spoke, but he came up to our team after, and he was like, his eyes were just like this big, and he was like, I have been in law enforcement for 28 years, and I have never looked at the girl's side of the story ever. Like, not one time. And so it's just this very honorable thing that we get to go into environments like that and help speak up for those that can't speak for themselves, and maybe shift perspective in the minds of people that can really do something about it, because it's a very confusing thing.
Is that you are an advocacy agency creating awareness. Like, you guys are the boots on the ground, actually. And I just don't know if I've seen a lot of organizations. I don't know if I've seen one that focuses more on the people than the process or the program or the advocacy of it, or making just people aware. And you guys are being a voice for the voiceless and changing people's thoughts. Because how many people, I mean, you guys have gone and pulled girls out of prisons who were doing sentences for crimes they were coerced and
into
forced
committing.
to do.
Yes.
You know, because they're treated in our legal system as if they just went out and stole something on their own. You know. Mm-hmm. And you really guys are really doing it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I went from like a desk job to like one day I could be at the state capitol, another day I could be at a prison.
Meeting with the FBI.
Another day I could be in a meeting about a case with the FBI.
Babe.
Another day
okay.
I could be, you know, spending time with a survivor on the way home from prison, bringing her to a new house. You know, there's just so much going on. And it's very interesting because when you come from my perspective, I didn't know that all this was going on.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that trafficking was a thing, but I am like up in it now. And
Yeah.
so it's a very real thing. And I
remember when you first started, like the first few weeks, first few months, I'm like, are you going to like sit down and talk about like pay or any of that? And you're like, we don't have time. Y'all are like pulling girls out, meet with girls every single day. You just don't realize that it's almost on like every corner.
It is like, I mean, it's happening often, and it's a very tragic thing, you know. I mean, just think about the article in the news not long ago. The woman and the two daughters, and they went and found that man had all these like cages in the backyard, and it was just like a trafficking location.
Crazy.
And it's just like, it's so easy to say, I'll just pretend like that doesn't happen because, you know, I'm not in Jackson, Mississippi. I don't know where that guy lives, but it happens. And that was on the news like last week. It's still, I mean, I watched some of that this morning on what's still happening with that case. It's just horrific what goes on in the world. And so, you know, with Sparrow, just getting a new perspective on really horrible situations and abuse, and learning how to care for people in that place, because there's a little bit of both compassion and boundaries like that you need to have in order for somebody to succeed. Like I'm learning so much about how to care for people that are in need, because you can't overly give to them because they're not ready to receive all of that. And so you have to teach people along the way. And so it's been very interesting to really watch the way that they operate, and how with Miss Alice, it's about the one. Like, it's about whoever's in front of us, wherever we are. If we're in front of a law enforcement officer and he needs to learn that this is real and how to help, it's like he's the one. Or if it's, you know, in front of a survivor and she's, you know, acting in an angry way, it's like she's the one. You know, and so I feel like I'm learning how to, you know, make the one important, the one that's in front of me. And so
whenever I think about Miss Elise style ministry, I think of that Mother Teresa quote where she's like, there's only one Jesus, and there's only one I don't even know how it is. The least of these is Jesus to me, so there's only one Jesus. You're the Jesus in front, whatever it is. Just talking about like,
the Jesus in front of me.
Focusing on that one, you know. And I'll say this, like, it has been such an honor to get to watch you. Because we started both in this whole ministry thing, kind of doing very hands-on inner city ministry. And you were smarter than me. All I can do is talk, and you know how to do like computer stuff. So, I mean, your gifts made room for you, and you served behind a computer, behind a desk for so many years. Yeah, you did use some mentoring stuff out of your own heart and whatnot on the side, or counseling, different things like that. But to see you really kind of blossom into full-on ministry, honestly, it's like, the word is not sexy, cocoon, but I feel like in the spirit.
What?
I feel like in the spirit, I've like watched you kind of blossom and come out of this cocoon to really become a beautiful butterfly.
Wow, babe, that's.
But also, if you've got a heart for human trafficking and you're generous, give to Sparrow, because they're too busy saving people and helping people to fundraise themselves. And my wife needs a job. No, I'm joking, but seriously.
it's amazing.
It's been beautiful to watch it all kind of come to fruition.
It's been beautiful. Definitely a step of faith, probably the biggest I've ever taken. But it's been really cool. And I remember my first week with Sparrow. They tell me, hey, one of our survivors is going to be interviewed by PBS for a documentary, and we have to go get her and bring her to Healing Place Church so that the camera crew for PBS can film her interview. And now this survivor is precious. Her name is Danny.
She's awesome.
She has autism, and so her story is very horrific.
One of the most horrific.
I don't know if I've ever seen a more horrific story. And so, but my first week was Danny's interview. Okay. Yeah. And so Miss Alice and Michelle were going to get Danny, and my job was to go and meet the camera crew and take them to the room that we were filming. And I'm like, it's like my first day on the job. And I'm like, what is happening? I am like, PBS is interviewing this survivor. It's up to me to get him in the room. Like, I am nervous, like all this stuff. Then all of a sudden, who I didn't know at the time was Karen Swinson. Karen Swinson, a news anchor for PBS. And she's a news anchor. She walks up and she's like, hey, are you with, Danny? And I was like, yes. I didn't realize it. I'm like, oh my God, this is a news anchor. I got to get her. And then I am an awkward soul in those kind of moments. And so anyway. Which was awesome. But before that, y'all picked her up and then y'all bring her to get a makeover and get her hair done. No, that was much later. That was for the premiere of the documentary. But Danny, so we had to pick her up and bring her. And the thing is, like, when somebody has been through something as traumatic as Danny, sharing your story is very hard. And then you add her level of autism. And then you add just really all the trauma that was done to her by men and just people in general. And we had to get her from the car to the room. And then once she was in the room, we had to get her into the room, like mentally. And so watching her tell her story for PBS was the highlight probably of my year. Wow. And so that was amazing, because watching somebody that has been through that bravely share, it was unbelievable. But we went on to get to take her to get her hair done and all that when the premiere, the documentary came out, and we were invited to the premiere. And so she got her hair done. We went and did her makeup and all this stuff, and then we brought her in to see the premiere of the documentary. And the governor was there and his wife, and just this big function. And it was really cool to see the star of the show be our girl. Yeah. And to so find that value for her to feel that value. She felt like a queen. She was so much redemption for have your voice taken, your body taken, everything taken from you. Yes. And then be able to use that, turn that around, and you take control of that story and that narrative. And get to share. You get to share hope. And she's passionate, and she's feisty. And she's so your new BFF. She's my new BFF, Danny. I know you're watching. I don't know if she had like her own ringtone or something on your phone, or y'all use a different app, but I just remember your phone going off with a specific ringtone all the time. And you're like, oh, it's Danny. It's Danny. We text all the time. So, hey, Danny. And speaking of Danny, it was actually on our hearts, and Danny was excited to join us for a bonus episode of the Tough Stuff podcast that's going to release this Sunday. Okay, June 30th. We are saying is Danny Day, because that's the day 8 years ago that she was recovered by law enforcement in the horrible place that she was trapped. And so in honor of Danny Day, I said, let's release an episode where you get to tell your story. And so this Sunday is going to be a surprise episode. So if you're listening to this, it's not a surprise to you. But on Sunday, we'll release her episode.
So it'll be Saturday at midnight?
Yes, Saturday at midnight. Danny and I sit down and kind of share her story. And, you know, what you're going to see is someone who's very nervous, someone who is precious and feisty and passionate. She's very passionate about, like every month she is, like, raising awareness of something.
She's like an activist.
Yeah, she's an activist.
Yeah.
Because she has autism, okay? So she's got that she raises awareness for. Then, you know, her traffickers, there was a lot of domestic abuse. I'm going to link, and you can get the link on Sunday too. I'm going to link the documentary because that documentary goes into very in-depth details about what
there's
actually
a lot of articles about her rescue. I remember that.
Yeah, in short, Danny was rescued from the backyard of her relatives in Amite, Louisiana, that they were housing her in a cage, and she was forced to do horrendous things, and she lived outside for a whole year. And so the abuse that she underwent and the trafficking that happened, they sold her from there. And so Danny is the strongest person I know, and so we've been talking about Danny Day, Danny Day, June 30th, and she just texted me earlier today and said, guess what week it is? Danny Days this Sunday. And so we thought, in honor of her life and her and being able to celebrate her recovery, we're going to release a special episode on June 30th, and that's me and Danny talking about her story.
I haven't got to hear it yet.
You haven't heard it yet. She actually gives you a few shout outs. She loved how you said the word toughies. She's got so excited about that, so she brought that up. But so look for that on Sunday, and just know how much strength and courage it took for her to sit here and, you know, with this camera and these microphones, and I just I guess my heart behind all of it is that we could be the kind of people, and we being like the world, the kind of people that, like,
all the toughies out there,
all the toughies, that we can, like, sit with somebody like Danny. And Danny's been through immeasurably more than I've seen or witnessed or ever done in my life. And that we could sit with somebody like Danny and not feel rushed to fix her, but feel burdened to connect with her. You know what I mean? Because people that have gone through, like, immeasurable abuse, like, the connection to other people is just ripped from them. And so who do you trust? You know, there's no easy way to just, like, reconnect with humanity when horrible things are done to you.
When every human you've encountered for years
and I think as Christians we have to do a better job at embracing those that have been in pain.
Embracing pain. I was thinking about that this morning, and, you know, we're always talking, and, you know, we get the opportunity to sit with a lot of people who have been through a lot of trauma, and I mean, the truth is we all have. Like, no matter how great your daddy was, there was some moment that marked you or that marred you or whatever it may be. You know, we all kind of live out of our own trauma, sometimes out of ignorance, sometimes knowingly, you know, sometimes out of health once we deal with it, you know. But I was thinking about it this morning, and, you know, I was sitting down with a couple the other day, and I was trying to help him understand, you know, his wife being hurt. And I was like, would you talk to her like that if she had a black eye? And it was like, of course not. Well, basically, she emotionally, and it's hard for us to do that when you don't see the pain. But this morning, I was wrestling with Elijah, and I was taking his foot, and I was like, I'm going to put it behind your head. Like, we were wrestling. He didn't want me to. And it was just kind of those things where, like, you don't know what pain he truly is in. So there's no way for me to really know how far and I wasn't really going to try to do it. I was just kind of like messing with him. But it just really connected for me mentally. Like, if he's saying it hurts, I can't tell him it doesn't hurt.
Yes.
Just because I think he should be able to put his leg behind his head. When I look at you, you should be able to put your leg behind your head.
And that's what we do to people.
And we just don't receive people or accept people for the pain they may be walking in. But we want to skirt them into our manufacturing line of disciples, or, which is truly, I even had this thought, and I'm trying not to go on a tangent, but I am. Jesus said the one who listens to my words but doesn't do what I say is like building on no foundation. But the one who does is like building on a solid foundation. Well, a foundation isn't just poured. A foundation, you've got to go down and excavate and dig and pull out the things that aren't supposed to be there and uproot things in order to lay a proper foundation. And I think some of these people that have been through so much, we're just ready to pour quickcrete foundation on top of their junk, and then we don't realize when they fall years later what's going on,
Well, it's almost like this level of like...
Man, we just made a turn, but I like
made a turn. It's like this level of like learning how to be at their pace is what I'm learning. Mm-hmm. Like, I can want more for them than they want for themselves, but if they're not capable in that moment and season to reach what I want them to reach, it's not going to help them. Yeah. And so it's almost like Miss Alice, and honestly, she's taught me this by how she's done it in my life. Like, she has been on pace with me and my growth and been ready to help and give wisdom and speak in whenever I am ready for things. And I've watched what God has done through her in my life. And so getting to see, others that are going through really hard things and be on pace with them, because you can't want someone to be more healed than they want to be, because they're not going to get there. Like, it has to come from within their soul. And so I've been learning, like, okay, sometimes healing for somebody is not, let me give you a scripture. Sometimes it's, let me sit with you and like make you feel special. Or let me sit with you and tell you I love you, or let me sit with you and laugh with you, or let's go drink coffee, let's go, sometimes people need to feel that connection before they are told how to fix something.
When they aren't able to receive even the love of Christ yet.
But then it's like,
seen it. They've never seen love, period.
Yeah,
so.
Especially people that, have been trafficked or abused in such horrible ways. Like, you cannot expect somebody that has been through that amount of trauma to just get it together. Like that, it doesn't work like that. And I think we overlook what people are really up against whenever they're in their day-to-day life. And I want to get better at seeing the root behind people's behaviors, actions,
It makes me really ponder what it is, because I'm guilty of this, guilty as charged. It makes me really ponder what it is in us that feels so quickened to hurry the discipleship process. And typically, if I'm being honest, it's for our own accolades, or to pat ourselves on the back, or to, and we want to say, obviously, it's a jewel in my crown, but a lot of times it's because we want to feel like we do. We want to feel like we're purposeful, and
it's like the win is that they're,
become you.
Yes. And it's like, no, the win should be that they felt seen today. Yeah. That despite everything they went through, that today they felt like somebody cared in a different way than people have. Yeah. And it's like learning to take baby steps with people and be okay. The thing about Miss Elise, you know how many people she's helped in her lifetime? And who knows? Nobody knows, because she doesn't do it for the accolades.
Yeah.
She does it behind closed doors for the one, and she's got so many ones. And I want to be like that. I want to be that person that is able to walk alongside somebody that has been through something traumatic and not get any recognition for it.
Yeah.
But know that they're seen and they're heard, because that's what everybody wants.
Cool to see. You think about, Jesus is the one who humbles himself. I'll raise up. And you think about Miss Elise and what she's done for the church. I mean, she's worked for the church for years. She's worked for Joyce Meyer for years, different nonprofits on grants, and has always been given a scope of work. But she has always done this hidden work that she was not being paid for. So it's just so cool to see this thing kind of blossoming now, where God is giving her a position, hopefully to really exercise and walk in truly what she wants, what she's called to walk in, without parameters and boundaries. And, I've got to jump through 10 hoops so I can go do what I really want to go do and speak to this person face to face, This is just awesome.
It's just really cool. It's been a really cool season. It's just a totally different season, and
I'm a little jealous, to be honest.
Well, I think about it and I'm like, every season matters. Like the seasons at the desk where I, built my career at the church, like that matters. There's so much that I've learned in that season. There's so many skills and even people skills that I gathered. And so this is just a new season where I'm in different places learning different things. And so I find that I'm a little bit overwhelmed a lot. I'm a little bit, caught off guard by, a lot of the things that I hear and see and witness. And so in a way, I'm thankful, because I'm like, God, I want to have empathy for people that have been through things like that. And the only way to do it is to get up close and personal. And so, and not say that I understand. Because so how many people say, oh, I know, I understand. And they really don't. And be able to say, hey, I don't understand. And I'm okay that I don't understand. I can't imagine what you've been through. But I'm learning this whole new art of sitting with people. And I can't wait for Danny's episode on Sunday, Danny Day.
That's awesome.
I know I said it earlier, but in closing, just to give context, Danny was it was reported to
Wildlife and Fisheries.
That there was an abandoned animal in a backyard. Or they thought it was an animal in a cage.
Noises or something?
No, it was just in like a rundown cage in Amite, Louisiana.
Wow.
And so, in fact, if you Google those things, it'll probably come up. And so, they discovered that it was not an animal; it was a human. And on June 30th, 8 years ago, they recovered her. And the cool thing about Danny is that she actually, and we talk about this in the episode on Sunday, her and I, she actually testified against her traffickers and abusers. And so that story is going to be in there on Sunday. And so I just, I want to live this life where we honor people that have been through hard things and are letting God use them. And we're not just honoring people of status or people are, the fact that Danny is coming on our podcast, it just warms my heart. And that's the kind of stuff I want to keep doing on here.
Yeah. And I think the older I get, the more I begin to have this thought. And this is kind of based off of a future podcast I want to do with a friend of mine. But the more respect and the more success I see in people, not from how high they've climbed, but how much they've endured and that they still stand, they still walk. Even those that have made it to the tip top and fallen, but have gotten back up. You know, that's where true strength is.
Yes.
That's where true endurance is.
Yes.
And, you know, those are the things that should be applauded.
Yeah. Well, I think we should bring them out on this podcast.
Well, let's do it, man.
I mean, I love, you know, everyone that has been a part of this podcast.
We love you guys for watching,
Thank
checking
y'all.
in. So many comments, people just all through the asking. Oh, one of the most awkward questions is how does the podcast? Because you never know if people are like, I don't know. You just never know if they like watch it, if they're listening to it, or if they're like asking you like, hey, is it failing, or what do you think about it? I don't know. But it's been so awesome to see so many random people that you wouldn't imagine be like, hey, I tune into the podcast.
Yeah. It is very interesting. And, you know, my heart is like to bring on more trafficking survivors. Like I want to build a bridge even to that, because I feel like those are the stories you don't get to hear.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like very out there in the media today, and to get to hear from like people that have walked in those shoes, I think would be amazing as far as like learning how to empathize and have empathy, because I'll never forget Charity Trahan said this, and because I was like, why trafficking? You know, Miss Elise in her ministry, like, why trafficking? And Charity said, well, if you think about it, if you can bring a trafficking victim from broken to whole, then you can help anybody find healing, because trafficking involves every level of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. Like, it involves everything in one.
Yeah.
And so getting to learn how to see people and hear people despite what they've been through, it's been really cool.
Yeah.
So make sure that y'all check out the episode this Sunday, Danny Day. It's going to be a bonus episode. I'm so excited. Danny's excited. You'll get to meet her, and so I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you guys share this video, or maybe send it to friends, or
like it, comment on it.
We love, I mean, is that selfish to say? We love the feedback.
No, for sure. We want to know that we're not wasting our time.
I know. We're like
that
are we?
people
Yeah.
Aren't just, I don't know.
Chris is insecure.
I'm not insecure. I'm insecure.
Well, I'm excited. Sunday's going to be amazing, and I'm excited to come back after this break and just see what God's going to do.
It's good to
have
be
some
home.
ideas,
it's good to
and
be back with you guys.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. This is a whole nother deal, but it's like, I don't know. I love that we are excited to get back to life. Most people vacation never want to come back.
I'm ready.
We've done something.
We have.
It's awesome.
Well, this is your favorite part.
It is.
Like we always say on this podcast, life can be tough, but God is still so good.